Rise up, the Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up, rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. The crew is back, and now it's time to rise up. The Dukes are back, and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.
All gone up in flames. All my expectations gone up in a bunch of flames, just like the D. Everything is on fire right now. It's fine.
The D's are on fire.
The D's on fire. We're back, and Duquesne basketball is on fire in the bad sense of it, where it feels like everything
they were lit on fire.
Everything's going wrong.
Fire.
Yeah, not hot. Just everything's crumbling down. For my expectations. In reality, everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're probably gonna end up like 5 or 6 in the conference and be fine. But as I was telling Alec, I was hoping for top 2 going into this game, thinking we'd win it, kind of ice our spot in the top 4, get a double bye for the first time in conference history for Duquesne. And now I'm realizing those very optimistic viewpoints.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say it's very optimistic. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being 5th when you were dead last year.
Yeah, no, I mean, compared to last year, this season's a godsend. But at the same time,
I don't know if I could do this podcast if they were as bad as last year. I mean, you'd really be asking me for a big watch out a team like that.
Listen, man, Duquesne has other sports. We'd become the Duquesne swimming and diving podcast, or
yeah, I'd have to like get into the bowling team or something like that.
Shout out Liv Farwell, by the way.
There a bowler that
yep, she just made the US team, the US national team for bowling. So shout out to her. She's no longer at Duquesne. She graduated last year, but shout out to her. She's probably our best athlete in the last 20 years from like a dominance of her sport standpoint. I mean, yeah. She literally was national bowler of the year last year. So
mastered her craft.
Yeah, nothing can top her. Yeah, so Duquesne.
Should we talk about basketball?
Yes, Duquesne Bonaventure. Game happened. First half horrendous, really bad. Did not drive to the basket. Did not even think of having offense inside of 3-point arc. And we forced shots at the start of the game. Didn't cover anybody really outside of the arc in the first half. Started to pick that up towards the end of the first half, into the second half. Had a bit of a run after I told Alec that we might as well start the podcast now because I don't see things changing. Classic. And I admitted it was an intentional reverse jinx. And once I admitted that it was an intentional reverse jinx.
You can't do an intentional reverse jinx. That's just not how it works.
Listen, man, it worked for a little while until I had to admit it. Once I admitted it, it went away. We got to a 6-point lead or a 6-point deficit.
Sounds like someone should have kept their fingers shut. I almost said mouth, but we were texting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game, especially in the first half. He said contested shots. RJ Gunn, specifically in the first half, was shooting contested floaters in the post. He wasn't the only one, but shot selection, horrible defense, especially Joe Reese in the pick and roll, just doesn't know how to defend the pick and roll. And when I was at the St. Joe's game last week, Dan Brott was really harping on him when anytime Joe Reese was on defense, he was on his ass a lot about that. So I was aware of trying to improve on. This has kind of been a week-to-week thing with Joe. I feel like I don't know what his minutes were in this game, but I wouldn't be shocked if they were like 50 because he was bleeding points defending the pick and roll.
They're big, ended up with like 12 points. I'm guessing at least 8 of those 12 was against Joe.
Oh, hey, I just read ESPN 18 minutes officially per ESPN.
I'm honestly surprised it was that high. It's crazy that like our expectations that he plays the most minutes ever, and it's basically the same amount of minutes as he played tonight, where it seemed like he took a huge deduction in minutes.
Okay, we'll just always guess either 18 or we can't be that wrong.
Yeah, we're always going to guess around 20, like give or take. That's if it seems like he gets a lot, 22. Seems like he
Yeah,
plays nothing, 18. There you go.
right.
That's the answer. Yeah. I mean, RJ Gunn may have had a bad shot selection to start the game. Still finished 2 for 7 from three, 4 for 14 from the field. So like, wasn't a bad shooting day from three. Wasn't good from the field. I mean, eventually you'd hope that you're
Yeah.
even out there.
He
Um,
kind of fell in love with just the jump shot. I don't know. I think he can dribble it a little bit more and try and get easier chucking up, not chucking, but he's fallen in love with the jump shot and not necessarily mixing up his shot selection as much.
yeah, and to be fair, that was our entire team tonight. Seemed to fall in love with the jump shot, and it just didn't fall. The only guys that played well, I'd say, offensively, Kareem, Trey Williams, and Trey Clark. Um,
Both trays.
yeah, both Treys. And Pirate Trey Williams is going to be forever put into These on Fire podcast lore in our memories. I kind of want him to keep that going for as long as he can. Uh,
Maybe it's something. Maybe he's got to I'll, Rip Hamilton it and just stick with the pirate look, just like Rip the mask, even though his nose was fine for 90% of his career.
yeah, if anything, I say NIL, Pirates, Pittsburgh. I feel like there
Yeah,
should be a connection here. Just get something going. I don't know what, even if it's like free pirate shirts or something, just something should be added to this Trey Williams fun. And he did play well in the role that we talked about he should be in, which is the offensive big in the second team unit, paired with Rotroff or Barre or Dixon, and he looked good in that role. Um, Again, Dixon didn't get any minutes. Barre got a few. Barre looked good in the first half when he did come in. Um, as you mentioned, Joe Reese did not look good defensively. Once Barre was added, it did affect things on the defensive end, at least on that front. Rotroff, he knows his role. He didn't he didn't finish anything. He made one free throw, but he drew some fouls on some dunk attempts that could have been cool. Uh,
yeah,
and it did bring a lot of noise from the student section and the fans. And it was nice to hear a student section because we haven't heard it yet because of conference play being when school's been out of session so far. So it's going to be nice to
yeah,
hear all the student sections for the last part of the season here.
for sure. Yeah, not mad that he didn't finish those. Like those were legitimate fouls, and and I'm not expecting him to offensively just floor. He was doing his thing. Like you said, Barry played well defensively. There was a noticeable difference. Bonnies were just getting whatever they wanted in the paint. When Joe Reese was on the floor, as Barry came in, he kind of locked that up a little bit. He was defending the pick and roll better, and then um, just a bigger threat when it comes to defending the paint and blocking. So that was good. What other notes do I have? Did you hear thing just doesn't I mean it has to do with the game, but the announcers kept saying that we were a bad shooting team. I don't did you hear that?
Yeah, I mean, we're a good 3 point shooting team, but inside the paint and inside the 3 point arc, we seem to shoot
We're not
worse.
bad though.
Well, I mean, putting in perspective, I think we actually might
I
have a
thought they
lower
I thought I
field.
heard like 29% or that they said. I hope I heard that wrong because that
I mean, maybe they were talking about our shooting percentage in the game at that time because we did shoot terribly in this game. Um, that might be our 2 point percent
no,
shooting
it's not.
percentage
It's not. I
because
looked at the numbers. We're 45% field goal percentage,
Field goal
49%
percentage.
from two. 49-2.
Really? All right,
Yes.
because it seems like
29. Do you know how bad 29% is from the
listen,
atrocious? Like
you
that would be like a AAU team shooting out there playing against it.
do you understand how many times I've looked at our shooting percentages and seen our 3-point percent being better than our field goal percent? That should
Happens, yeah, but
that should never
we're
happen,
not
Alec. Should never happen. It happens all the time with this team.
bad from two. We're just, I mean, we have a lot. We have Joe Reese specifically just alone threat. Like he and all of his shots, except for one or two threes that he shoots a game, they all think he's a good shooter. So I don't know. That was just a random note. You didn't hear it, so it's not a big deal. I don't know why the announcers kept saying we aren't a good field goal shooting percentage team. Like on average, if you look at field goal percentage, we're seventh in the A10, and then nationally we're like 107. Yet completely average field goal shooting team.
Um, the running bits of our podcast. We are not a good offensive rebound. We're a good offensive rebounding team, bad defensive rebounding team. Didn't really show up in this game. Like we actually did okay. Um,
Lost the rebounding offensive glass, which is all that I look for. I don't even care that we lost the rebounding battle. That's not why we lost it.
right, and I mean it's obvious we missed a lot more shots than they did, so they have the innate advantage of winning the rebounding battle in general when they have more opportunities on the defensive end. Um, we missed wide open shots. If we make those shots, our scoring is going to be above 80 points in a game. When we don't, we score less than 7. Like, what was it, 50 something today? It was really low. So that's the thing. Ronski needs more minutes. That's pretty much every podcast. Dixon needs more minutes. Both of them got 0 tonight. We talked about it in the first attempt at this podcast that it didn't go well because of technical reasons. Um, Hugh, Quincy McGriff, and Barre got some chance. I think it was partly because of just kind of how the game was and how down we were. Yeah, and you mentioned Trey Williams coming back and eating into minutes for Ronsky probably plays a factor in it too.
Yep, it's pretty much yeah. Williams coming back, he's gonna get, and he played really well in the minutes, like you said to start off the pod. He played 19 minutes in this game, 11 in the field. Clearly provided a spark off the bench offensively, and playing with Joe Reese, which is the most important part. Um, you're just replicating skill sets if those together. Um, Williams played mostly with Rotroff in this game, or a lot with RJ Gunn, which could be interesting as long as you don't get crushed on the solid rebounder for his size. So I don't expect that to be an issue. But this was the role that I envisioned Williams when I was kind of talking negatively about him earlier in the season. I just didn't like how many minutes. 19 minutes is that's perfect. 20 minutes is perfect. He was playing 30 early season, so hopefully this role continues and he comes off the bench. And is that
Yeah. Trying to think how to phrase this correctly. Who do you think would be the best podcast get from the basketball team? Like, who would be like the most surprising or the best guest do you think to actually be a guest on our podcast? Because I say this, uh, Trey Clark and Quincy McGriff went on a JUCO Edits podcast, and let me tell you, you think ours has technical issues. Theirs is run through Instagram Live, and that is how they run their podcast, and they don't have it anywhere else. It's just Instagram Live is how they keep podcasts.
oh
So
wow.
yeah,
Is that how the youths record podcasts now? They don't use Zoom as to like do Instagram live.
I guess. So I do think there's a chance that we could get players on here, but who do you think we'd actually like Trey Williams would be hilarious in the fact that I feel like you'd have to pull up Big Cat and just read off your terrible takes to him in person to get his reaction.
I would I don't even know how I'd handle that. I mean, I'm not, I'm not big. I'm not gonna just totally. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not gonna lie to his face. I would definitely be embarrassed. Like those two guys on part of my take, they're embarrassed by anything that they do. I would just totally be like, I've never played Division 1 ball. I don't really talking about, but please don't hate me.
You could eat
These are
me
the
if we
things I
ever met
said.
in
Don't be too
person.
mad.
I come up to your belly button basically height wise. Yeah, it's gonna go well.
Yeah, from in that sense. But I mean, I would if he was actually that mad, but I don't think he would be, obviously.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, it would be. It would definitely be funny for sure. But I think I would hope the only thing that I would take from that, he thinks I know like 5% of ball. That's all I would need, and then I would be successful.
I feel good about our knowledge of ball based almost solely on the fact that everything we talk about on the podcast is basically echoed by Dan Brought in those post game press conferences.
No,
Like
that's a great sign. So yeah,
yeah,
if Williams just says something like, "You're right about this," like that for me to be like, "This is a success."
yep. Entire podcast success right there and there.
On all the other things that I said, which like I said earlier, I wasn't trying. I definitely things about him, but it was in the sense of how much he was playing relative to how many minutes he was getting. His team is very deep, especially at the front court. So that was my main point. The pods, and this game showed the ideal vision I had for Williams.
For white whales of the podcast, like guys that we'd aspire to get. I feel like TJ McConnell is probably the obvious one for me. Like that would just be like the best get ever in the history of this podcast that I could imagine.
Did you say Dambrot?
No, TJ McConnell.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Oh, that would be mine too.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, Dambrot would be up there. That would be my wife's favorite guest that we could ever get on this podcast. She loves Dambrot for some reason. I don't know why.
Mm.
Um, but I
Maybe LeBron.
Bronny and Bryce and LeBron,
Yeah.
where Bronny and Bryce announced that they're committing to Duquesne, that would be the dream right
Yeah,
there.
that would be something. Yeah, even Bronny if he came on,
Yeah, anything works. And now I have to add a bucket.
Probably not. Literally none of these people, but it's fine. It's a man can dream.
Hey, that's what this podcast is about. Just dreaming about what could be, since there's not much to talk about.
Just like you were
wise.
dreaming about the Dukes being second in the A10,
Yep.
which is fine. We knew there's nothing wrong with being 4, 5, 6 in the A10. I mean, 6 is the very minimum expectation, I feel like, for the season. That would be basically middle of the pack. Hopefully top 5. That should be the goal.
Yeah, from the women's side of things, just to touch on it, we went 1-1 since our last pod. Lost to Fordham pretty badly. Beat St. Louis tonight. Women's team just is not a good shooting team. Like not good offensively. Like pretty strong defensively, holding opponents to like 30, below 40% when it comes to field goal percentage. But they themselves just can never seem to be hot. Amaya Hamilton seems like their most consistent scorer. Meg McConnell played well tonight. Tess Myers seems to be getting a lot of attention in conference play, similar to how Day Day has been shut down essentially since conference play. And the other guard, Trey Clark or Niall Bernard, are the ones that have been carrying the offense. So it's weird. It's just the guys have more depth pieces who can get hot, like a Trey Williams or a Kareem Rozier, and the women's team does not have that option on the bench. So if the starters,
that really stresses the starters for sure.
Yeah, and actually, announcers from I think Fordham was talking about it because they're also not heavy on their bench, and they talked about how the shooting numbers typically are worse for teams that do carry less players because fatigue sets in and then shots don't
100%.
fall. So
100%. Yep.
I'm particularly worried about that as the season wears on and we get even more fatigued. I mean, we're already not shooting well. It's not going to go well. So
That's a recipe for disaster there.
yeah, it's going to turn into just having to out defend teams, and that is not the style of basketball Bert necessarily likes to play. But you got to just play whatever is going to get you wins at this point.
If those are the strengths, those are the strengths. At this point of the season, you got to play to your strength, minimize your weaknesses.
Yeah. From the guy's perspective, I didn't think we had too many weaknesses, especially offensively, but now I'm starting to question that. So the reactionary frost is back.
It was just a poor shooting night. I mean, they don't get into the paint that much, but that's just you're an elite 3-point shooting team, which we are. I think said in the technical riddled podcast, first in the A10 in 3-point percentage and third ranked per real basketball real GM. So if you have elite numbers like that, but it is frustrating that, especially day, where we just can't really get points in the paint off the dribble.
Yeah, I I was going to say that it's just frustrating that we can't seem to have a good offensive game against a good opponent. And then I remembered our VCU game, and yeah,
VCU was the exception. Yep.
yeah, and I
Which
had to
is
shut up.
yeah, that's the hope into these other games where you
It's
expect that we're still gonna play.
it's crazy because even the first half of Richmond, we shot the ball so well, and then the second half, just completely night and day.
That
St.
was
Joe's,
such a weird game. St. Joe's was just, they're not good. We're not good on defense, so it was just a scoring machine out there.
I am looking forward to our matchup against Loyola Chicago later in the season because they seem to be clearly the worst team in the conference. So I want to see Day get right in that game, which is
Hopefully, it gets right in the Fordham game first.
right. Fordham's defense has typically been pretty good, but they aren't as good as we are. They shouldn't be as good as we are, based off
The
of the
record
talent.
seems, yeah, based on this, I have a little pre-mortem, but based on the numbers, their record doesn't is seems inflated.
Yeah, and
Seems from
that's
how good
consensus
this
through
team is statistically. Yeah,
that's the consensus through A10 Twitter and all the predictors out there. I mean, our game against them, we have an 80% chance of winning according to ESPN analytics. So
let me
I'm
see what
confident.
Ken Palm has now that you say that.
I'm confident we'll win that one. Confident we'll beat Loyola. So we should be in a much better mood going into next pod. Um,
Yeah,
well,
7 per Ken Palm.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how this next week goes. But right now, I'm just deflated because my unrealistic expectations are on fire.
That's you're reminding me of myself last year, um, with the Sixers. I was so hopeful on the Sixers for the last basically Embiid era, and this season I finally gave up. I have no expectations for this team to actually do anything in the playoffs, and it's been a weight lifted off my shoulders. So once you come to that realization that Duquesne will just be, it's fine to be top five. It's fine, good team to watch, but ultimately come to nothing. You're going to enjoy the season a lot more. Trust me.
Once you release yourself of any hope and expectations, it
Yeah,
becomes a lot more enjoyable.
it sounds stupid, sounds silly, it sounds easy, but it's not easy. But it makes I watched the Sixers play the Clippers last night. It was just fun to watch. Now they were winning, but I'm not thinking there to myself, oh, we can beat a good playoff team like come playoff time. No, I don't have that thought. Like, hey, Joel Embiid's really fucking good.
I'm enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying what I'm watching right this second.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll get there. I will. It's probably not going to be this season.
nothing. Top five should be the goal. Top five should be the goal. That would seriously be disappointing.
Yeah, especially with how the other teams that I had expectations to be really good this year have gone downhill as well. VCU, Dayton, St. Louis. Yeah,
We should be looking at we should be above George Washington, and then hopefully neck and neck with Richmond and the Bonnies. Honestly, those
yeah,
are
but
probably the few teams that are true threats.
it just stinks that we've lost to three of the true threats that we just mentioned. Like we've lost to Dayton, we've lost
And
to the Bodies, we lost to Richmond, all away. But man, that really,
Richmond one is really that's the real stinger. That's why I'm not too upset with this game. Just shot defensively wasn't great, but not totally horrific. Um, that Richmond game, I don't think I'll ever get over it.
I am starting to really worry about well, ours and the whole conference really playing away because it is becoming a trend now where we had the game against St. Joe's, which, I mean, there's a few things I can say about St. Joe's, including the away gym not necessarily being the most intimidating area to play. So I don't know.
No, that's totally fair. These all the games that we've lost, they've had um had a really good crowd in,
Yeah.
except St. Joe's.
So maybe that's a good thing though, that that won't be a thing once we get to the 8-10 tournament too. It's neutral site. Everybody's going to be split fans. So that maybe something. See, I'm getting my hopes up again. This is what we're talking about. Just be in the present, Nick. Be in the present.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll
A
get there.
few. I have a few things for Fordham. Just
Yeah.
things I'll rattle off. So basically they're similar to the girls actually. Not a great offensive team, but a good team. They're 223rd in 3-point percentage. This is all per um they're 287th in the per game at 67.8. And but defensively they're pretty good. Per Ken Palm, they have a defensive rating of 94.4 per 100 possessions. That's their defensive effective field goal percentage at 47%. That's in the country. That's really good. And this is the big one. Block 0.1%. That's second in the A10 and 25th in the country. Not really, that's a big number, but luckily for us, we don't get into the paint that much. So hopefully we could shoot outside. But in all seriousness, beyond then try not to get in foul trouble. Fordham gets over 20% of their points, which is 38th in the nation per Kenpa. So try not to foul, and let's see how we do in the paint. Hopefully our post players can play better. Joe Reese.
Yeah, and if we get out to a big lead at the start of that game, I'd like the lead to grow to 30 and be even bigger than 20. Either like a 10 to 12 point lead that I feel confident we can continue to hold throughout the game, like St. Joe's. Once we get
Yeah.
into like the 20, 22 point range, that's danger zone. We need to like hit
Yeah,
another
like 15 or
accelerator.
so. 15
Yeah.
I feel like seems a good median.
Yeah, if we hit 20, we need to have another run to extend that to 30. Like we can't stay in the danger zone too long, or else it'll just be bringing up constant fears. Because this game against the Bonnies, it's again another A10 trope. Is Danbrought led Duquesne teams have the most 20-point swings in games we've ever seen, both ways. You have a 20
Yeah.
point lead, you lose it, you're down 20, you come back and win those games. So yeah, 20 points is a dangerous place to be a Duquesne team.
Yeah, I guess so. Fans, Chargers fans, it's pretty similar experience being a Duquesne basketball fan.
Uh, yeah. All
It's
right,
fun.
well,
Hopefully this is a get back and we'll be at home.
Yep. So looking forward to the offense showing up, showing out, and hopefully a few more Duquesne wins before we talk again, folks. For now, we'll say see you later.
Go Dukes.
The Dukes are back and now it's time to rise up. Rise up.